Trump Game here, coming at you with another episode from ChooseYourRelationships.com, off of Love Can't Wait, which can be found on Amazon.com. And I got a question from a subscriber, and he asks, what kind of play is African American women or black women, what kind of play they getting in Japan? Are people checking them out? Are they getting dates? Or what's up with black women dating in Japan? That's a good question, man. And it's based, on my experience. I was in Japan for almost 4 years, and I was stationed in Yokosuka, and I've pretty much been from Yokosuka to the Atsugi area, all around Tokyo, and all around the Air Force Base, and I pretty much been around all the bases, at least all the big ones in Japan anyway. There's a lot of other little small mini supply bases and stuff like that, but I've been to all the big bases, and I've been around Tokyo pretty good bit, and I still visit Japan to this day. And as a matter of fact, I went to Japan last year, and I went to basically the same areas, some of the same areas I used to hang around when I was living there for almost 4 years. And when it comes to black women in Japan, first off, the pickings is slim for black women in Japan. Nobody's really checking for black women over there. You go to any base that I've been to, it's probably gotten worse today because they got so strict with a lot of the rules and regulations. Even if you go into Japan for a job, a lot of black women, you go to Japan for a job, they'll try it out for a couple of months, and they'll come back to America, go home or wherever they came from. They might have came from someplace else besides America. But wherever they came from, this is just across the board when it comes to just foreigners in general. Most foreigners don't last in Japan. And I did a video earlier talking about why that is. But there's not a lot of black women in Japan from the get-go. And plus, the ones that are there, they're usually married or they're just not on the market. They got somebody, some of them military, some came over with a job, so they came over with their family. And the ones that are single, they don't really like to get out for some reason, and a lot of them I've met, they have this thing where it's like, they came over to Japan because they're running from something, or they wanted to get away from their friends and family, or they wanted to just do their own thing. So it depends on the intent and the reasoning behind why they came to Japan as well. That makes a whole lot of difference, and a lot of times, I think a lot of the black women, at least the ones that I've met, they get a little jealous of a lot of the brothers over there, because a lot of the brothers over there, they basically want to have a good time with any girl. It doesn't matter if she's Japanese or white or whatever. They don't care, because a lot of these, you have to look at it like this, a lot of these dudes are young, 18, 19, 20, 21 at best on average, and they just want to have a good time, because where they came from, more than likely it wasn't a lot of available women the way it is in Japan, because in Japan you got women that's from everywhere around the world, especially when you go to Tokyo. So a lot of these guys aren't used to that. I know I wasn't. You know, and I went to college, but even in college, it still ain't like that. Not on that level. So a lot of these dudes are just so excited and maybe a little blown away. So I think a lot of black women are kind of jealous, you know, in a sense. And you know, a lot of Japanese guys, they not checking for black women like that. And the ones that are, that's a very small number, and they usually have some type of fetish going on, some crazy shit. And a lot of black women get used over in other countries as well. You know, because a lot of them go to places like Thailand and China, and a lot of these Asian guys, they usually have some type of fetish or whatever for black women, and they don't be wanting to be seen with black women out in public. As a matter of fact, I was in Japan for almost 4 years, and I never seen a Japanese guy walking down the street with a black woman. I've never seen it. Now, I know the relationships between Japanese guys and black women, they do exist in Japan. But I'm just saying, I've never seen a couple walk down the street. I know they exist. I know a lot of Japanese guys do fuck around with black women sexually. A lot. But as far as relationships, you ain't gonna see much of that. You know what I'm saying? It's just not gonna. More than likely, it's probably not gonna happen. Just the way how the Japanese people function in Japan. You know, more than likely, you know, the Japanese guy that do date a black woman, he's gonna have to be somewhat different than from the average Japanese guy, I would think, because everybody in Japan, for the most part, as far as Japanese people go, they're trying to do the same shit. They're not trying to learn anything new. They're not trying to do anything new living in Japan. Now, when they leave the country and go elsewhere, oh, that's a different story. But while they're living in Japan, everybody is just doing the same old shit that they've been doing for hundreds of years. You know what I'm saying? But when it comes to black women, man, the pickings is slim, man. Really. The pickings is slim on both sides. She don't really have a lot of prospects, a lot of guys that she can really talk to, because they're not really checking for her. And even some of the guys that come over there, whether they're military or coming over there for a job, they're not really checking for her either. Now, sometimes some of those girls get lucky, because if they come over there working a job with some company, maybe they might teach English or something like that. A lot of times you have other guys that come over around the same time, so they might be available. But I tell you what, if none of those guys are available, and if she has to venture out in Tokyo or in the streets of Japan, she's probably gonna end up single. Well, she's gonna be single when it's time for her to leave, whenever that is, because Japan is a very difficult place to date for most people, because it's not a very sociable place, like living in the Western world. Not, you don't see people talk to each other on the street very much. People don't socialize while they're on the train or walking down the street or at the mall, or that's very unlikely that you see somebody doing that. Really, a lot of people, to me, I mean, I'm not knocking nothing against Japanese people, but they function like robots. You know, I mean, somebody brought that to my attention the other day. They function like robots, because there's no compassion there. Not probably not any empathy there. So they don't really. Everybody's trying to do the same shit, man. You know what I'm saying? And they have their little stereotypes about black people or black women as well. So especially if you don't speak the language and you can't read the language. I mean, that puts you at another disadvantage if you're a black woman. It's like, I mean, it's kind of sad being in a place like that. If you let's see, if you're a black woman and you meet, and if somebody meets you, if you meet a guy and he says, hey, yo, I'm having a cookout or a party, why don't you come over? You're invited, right? And she go to the party, and it's a bunch of Japanese girls, and she's the only non-Japanese girls there, and there's guys there, and the guys are giving everybody else play except for her. And if she is getting any play, it's not the same. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like I said, most of these guys that go to Japan, they're young. They just want to have a good time. They really don't care where the woman's from. You know what I'm saying? But that's how it is, man. So the pickings are slim for black women in Japan. I mean, Japan is a very difficult place, and the pickings is slim. And if the pickings is slim in any environment, you gotta be good. You gotta have very good social skills. Otherwise, you're probably gonna get lost in the chaos, or get lost in the sauce, as some people might say. So, if you like what you heard, subscribe to my channel. Check out my blog, chooseyourrelationships.com. And if you have any questions, click the link below. Until next time, I'm out.